Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My ex boyfriend Dominic and I were high school sweethearts. We met during the start of high school and eventually fell in love. Even though my parents had warned me against him because he had a reputation for being a bully and a horrible person in general, I still decided to continue dating him because younger me had the attitude that he was good to me and I had the horrible mindset that I would be able to fix him. Result of watching too many romance sitcoms, to be honest. But regardless, I date Dominic and our parents know about our relationship from the get go. Living in a small town, the word obviously spread, and his parents fell in love with me while mine had been against him throughout the entirety of the relationship. Only if little me would have listened to them, but I didn't, which is what landed me here. But regardless, I continued to date him all throughout high school and then in college too. We go to the same university, and although both of us were able to get into the same university, a good reputable one at that, his behavior just worsens from there on. Dominic not only became more of an a-hole, but also started indulging into alcohol, drugs, and other substances. This is when I broke up with him for the first time within the first 15 days of the first semester itself, when I first saw him doing drugs at his dorm room. This began a cycle that lasted for the next 4 years, where he promised that he'd change, get better, which he did, only for about a week though, eventually slipping back into his old ways, and I, like a fool, every time took him back. This continued for a long time. I still remember my parents being disappointed every time they found out I was back with him, and Dominic's parents hoping that he'd change, for me, at least this one time. Well, he did, but unfortunately not for me. He had changed for Melissa, one of his co-workers he met at his new part-time job after graduation. Now, Melissa was the complete opposite of me, bold, dominating. You know how. Honestly, I'd be lying if I said I didn't love the way she carried herself, but never in a million years I could imagine Dominic with Melissa. And when I did, I wasn't even heartbroken. It was just the nail to the coffin after everything he had put me through. Nothing that he did hurt me. So I just go out of their way and watch this man who I waited for years and years to become better, change for a woman he had just met about a month ago. I wasn't done being a doormat, though, because he didn't just cheat on me, he knocked her up and ran off to marry her outside the USA, and by the time he had returned, he and Melissa both had lost their jobs. Not only that, he was also now disowned by his family, so he came crawling to me, begging me for help. Not just any help, though, financial help for Melissa and her maternity needs. According to him, she too had lost her job and they really needed support. After a lot of convincing and begging, I was finally convinced and decided to help him. Now, another promise he told me to make was that I wouldn't tell his parents any of this, which was understandable because he was disowned. So I started giving him a small monthly allowance, which went on for around 2 years. I had no contact with Dominic's family or his wife at that point, in all honesty. At that point, I was too busy to even care. All I wanted was for his child to do well, and so I just let everything slide, but oh boy, little did I know I was going to end up in this huge mess. It all started a couple of months back when I heard someone ring my doorbell multiple times. I opened the door and was surprised to see Melissa on the other side, and right before I greeted her, she started berating me. It took me a couple of minutes to even be able to comprehend what she was talking about, but more than talking, she was simply just screaming. So eventually, after a couple of minutes of dead silence from my end, I understood that she was trying to blame me for something. Further observation revealed that the screaming was about me sleeping with her husband while we were married. WTF? I immediately went on defense mode and started to try to explain to her that was simply not true, but by the look of sheer anger on her face, she wasn't in the mental state to listen. Her screaming was just getting louder, and I was getting scared. I guess the neighbors also heard the commotion because by the time I took out my phone to call the cops, they were here to question us, where I explained to him the entire situation. There were security cameras outside my house too, which I offered to show them, and after taking a look at it, I guess things were pretty clear to them because they asked her to get off of my property, which she did. I thought that was it. That day itself, I had called up Dominic to let him know of the situation. He acted like he was shocked and apologized to me profusely, but I knew I had enough that day. So I informed him that I no longer would be able to support him financially, which surprisingly he took well, but hey, after all, he's Dominic and I should have seen worse coming. It didn't take another couple of months until one day my phone started blowing up from calls and texts from Dominic's family accusing me of ruining Dominic's life more than it already was ruined. I was once again lost and asked what they were talking about. One call with his mom, and it was revealed that the financial support I used to give Dominic is being used against me by Melissa as evidence to divorce Dominic. I was infuriated upon hearing this. I immediately called up Dominic to ask him about this, and he said he had no idea about this either until today when Melissa presented her evidence. This is where I'm at currently, genuinely at a loss for words. Is there anything I can do at all here? Do I have a leg to stand on if I go to the lawyers? WIBTA if I do go to the lawyers. Help! Any advice would be much appreciated. Hi, all. I did go to the lawyers who told me that I could technically sue Melissa for defamation. They told me to submit a timeline of everything that took place. So I have been working on that currently, starting from the moment I started sending Dominic money to our text and call records, till the report filed to the cops along with the recording of the security footage of our argument. They all have been submitted to the lawyers who said they would call me in when they need me next. I thanked them and left. I received a call right when I left the lawyer's office, and it was Dominic. Although I wasn't in the mood at all to talk to him, I knew I had to. So I picked up the call, and he told me that he needed to meet me urgently to discuss something important. I told him that I absolutely wasn't going to help him financially or in any context for that matter. He was very insistent, and I got what context he was talking about once he mentioned his divorce case and the evidence. I knew I had to meet him then, so we decided on a time to meet. I will update you all once we meet. I met Dominic today, and oh boy, things just took a turn for the worse. Dominic and I met at a local cafe, and he started off by asking me about the company I worked at. I told him which one, and then he followed up by asking one of my coworkers, Luke. Now, I started to get a bit annoyed at the flood of questions as he seemed to get more curious once he found out about Luke, and honestly, didn't take me long to get just as curious when Dominic revealed the true reason behind his questions. Apparently, according to him, Melissa is, in fact, the one cheating on Dominic, and that too with Luke. He has found ample evidence about the same when he snooped through her laptop. He told me that if there was any way that I could contact Luke, who is single, and have him confess about his relationship with Melissa, her game would be over and done. He also proposed to me that I could then also go nuclear and sue for defamation for money. It all honestly seemed like a good idea, so I went on my merry way to contact Luke, who, although was shocked at the discovery, agreed on becoming an evidence. Dominic has told me that he will be submitting everything in court on their next court date and will be updating me about the same. It's been a while since I posted. I was caught up with work and everything that had been going on, and so couldn't update. Well, to put it shortly, Melissa lost the case. Yes, although Dominic and her got a divorce, but they were for other reasons. Another very heartbreaking thing came out of this situation, and that is the fact that the baby Melissa claimed was Dominic's doesn't belong to him. He had done a DNA test as soon as he found out about the cheating, and as it came back negative, he also filed for giving up custody of their child, which is a decision I disagreed with, but in the end is his choice. As for me, I did end up suing her for defamation and ended up winning. The case was pretty smooth and simple as Melissa had next to no leg to stand on. She paid me half of the sum I demanded in the lawsuit, and honestly, that has covered quite a bit of money I loaned out to Dominic, and honestly, I will be using it for therapy because, in all honesty, it is only after reading all these replies under this post that I have realized how horribly Dominic bruised me, which I have told him so before cutting off all and any contact with him. which he surprisingly took well. I guess this divorce has really shaken him up because the last time I spoke to him and his family, who apologized to me for the accusations, he was talking about getting into rehabilitation and some sort of detox program to get his life together. I know he had made promises like those before, but this is the first time he's talked about rehab on his own. So that's definitely progress, regardless of what happens to him, though. I know I need a lot of strength to go through the next chapter of my life. NTA, sue her for defamation, get all the money back, OP. You truly deserve better. NTA, it's shocking that you even considered helping Dominic to begin with. I mean, all the red flags were there to tell you that Dominic was never going to be good news. Regardless, it's better late than never to sue Melissa and Dominic. My brother died 6 years ago. He left behind a wife and two daughters. My brother and his wife never had the best marriage, and she was never close to my family. We adored the girls, though, and spent a lot of time with them and my brother while he was alive. After my brother died, we ended up in court to see my nieces because their mom was shacked up with someone days after the funeral, and she decided if we wanted to see them, we needed to take his kid too. I was granted access to the girls and have never passed on this time. She ended up married to another guy within 11 months of my brother's death, with two of his own kids, and she has two kids with him. Her family and his family are not involved in their shared kids' lives. Because of this, the kids have latched on to my family. We do not want to be in their lives, though. So we focus on the girls and try to be kind to the other kids, but not to lead them on. Their mom keeps letting them come and acting like we're equally responsible for her other kids. Once she even used the line that since she didn't divorce my brother, they're his stepkids and so part of our family. The girls have talked about how weird life is because they're discouraged from talking about their dad at home. They're told they could see their mom's husband as their dad. They're even told they should advocate for their siblings to be included. But neither of them likes that their mom remarried in the way that she did, and neither like her husband. They have expressed jealousy of his other kids who have no contact with him and don't have to be part of that household. So the older of their half siblings is turning 5 soon, and when I went to pick up the girls, he came out and asked why I wouldn't be at his birthday party, and I told him he should ask his mom to explain. She came out and he asked her, which is when she told him I needed to be invited. So he turns around and asks me to come. I told him I couldn't make it. He asked why. So I said his mom would need to tell him. I didn't want to drag it out with the kids, so I left with the girls quickly. One was held back by her stepdad, but was coming out as all this happened at my car. I got several messages after saying I was TA for making her answer for my cruelness. I think it would have been worse for me to say anything, but I want others to judge. AITA? NTA, the kids aren't yours and they aren't your brothers. If they continue trying to force the situation, have your lawyer send a cease and desist. The kids might be innocent, but the parents should not raise them under the false pretense that you are their family. You, by no means, have to be involved, and if you are, it can cause trouble down the line. If you buy something for your family, then the entitled mother might try and say that you should also buy something for the guy's kids. She might also start thinking that she can drop the kids off at your house for babysitting, etc., if you don't put your foot down. The guy's kids aren't related to you, not even by marriage. He had them with another woman, and he married a woman who no longer has ties to your family. Only your nieces are related to you by blood. NTA, I will never understand being forced to be part of a step-niece, nephews, etc. They're not related to you. They've been forced onto you. You don't have to be happy about it. I'm a 24-year-old female, and my great grandfather passed from COVID in 2020. He was 107. In the event of his death, our grandmother, his daughter, was to give us, myself and my sisters, both 21 female, his graduation present, basically a portion of our inheritance. This particular check was about $20,000 per kid and was kept aside for us three to have when we graduated college to help pay off some student loans, with more on the way as we aged. I got very lucky in life for someone my age, and I'm aware of this. I went to a privileged college with almost $170,000 in scholarships and had about $30,000 in federal loans after I was done and got my degree. With the loan forbearance, I've managed to get my loans down to $18,000. Yesterday, as many know, the president announced $10,000 in student loan forgiveness. I happen to qualify, which will knock my loans down to $8,000. Literally all day, my parents have been harassing me to give back great grandpa's money. Basically, they found out that my grandparents handed over a couple of months ago because we weren't expecting the last forbearance extension. According to my grandma, after a $10,000 announcement, my mom called and asked what they would do with my inheritance, and grandma explained she already gave it to me. My parents are saying that with the money I earn at my job and my $10,000 forgiveness, I don't need the money. My dad wants to take some courses that will enhance his business, and my mom wants to take some hobby art courses. I don't know what to call them. They're like classes to paint and stuff like that, but they aren't college courses. Honestly, they are kind of right. I mean, on paper, I don't really need the inheritance because I can pay off the $8,000 easily before the loans are even due in January. However, it's mine. Great grandpa had a stipulation that anything left over from the loans, if there was something, if ours to keep. It's not for anyone else, and my parents know this. Not to mention, I believe my mother got a rather healthy inheritance from him as well, so I don't see why they need my money specifically. My grandparents are super angry at my parents for asking me for this, but they're the only ones on my side. My sisters think I owe my parents for all they've done for me, and my parents are going by the what's yours is mine as we spent XYZ to raise you, so you owe us now that you're functioning. It's really tiresome and really annoying. I kind of just want to block my whole family except my grandparents. But even my friends are kind of leaning into what my parents are saying. One even suggested that I was spoiled and that I should at least give them the $12,000 left over to be fair. I'm too tired to deal with this. AITA? NTA. If your sisters are so generous, let them give their inheritance to their parents. It's easy to be generous with other people's money. NTA. As a mom, I think it's incredibly messed up when parents try to tell their children that the children, whom they brought into their family and or made exist in the case of bio families, owe anything for the cost of being raised. That's not how that works. Not even a little bit. You owe your parents nothing. You earned the scholarships. You got yourself a job. Also, you're still extremely young. That money could be used to start a nest egg or build an emergency fund if anything unexpected happened to your health or job. You have, hopefully, a long life left ahead of you, and having a cushion is a gift that many never receive. Your parents don't need the money for essentials like food or shelter or medical care. They want it for hobbies. They're adults. They can save their own damn money to fund their hobbies. NTA. Your great grandpa wanted you to have that money. If he wanted your parents to have the money, he would have left money for them. If your parents want to take classes, they can pay for them. Don't give your parents money. If your sisters disagree, then your sisters can give them money. If your sisters are so generous, let them give their inheritance to their parents. It's easy to be generous with other people's money. NTA. As a mom, I think it's incredibly messed up when parents try to tell their children that the children, whom they brought into their family and or made exist in the case of bio families, owe anything for the cost of being raised. That's not how that works. Not even a little bit. You owe your parents nothing. You earned the scholarships. You got yourself a job. Also, you're still extremely young. That money could be used to start a nest egg or build an emergency fund if anything unexpected happened to your health or job. You have, hopefully, a long life left ahead of you, and having a cushion is a gift that many never receive. Your parents don't need the money for essentials like food or shelter or medical care. They want it for hobbies. They're adults. They can save their own damn money to fund their hobbies. NTA. Your great grandpa wanted you to have that money. If he wanted your parents to have the money, he would have left money for them. If your parents want to take classes, they can pay for them. Don't give your parents money. If your sisters disagree, then your sisters can give them money.